Hello, welcome back to Election Time News, your one-stop for political summations, poll reviews, nonpartisan predictions, interviews, and compilations on other political forecasters. Today's Monday, October 28th, 2024, and today I'll be giving you all an update on the early vote data. This is the second and only other time I'll be doing this, just because it's already so close to Election Day, there's not really much to cover, and I still have my update on the probabilities and margins for my presidential map and the Senate map as well, going in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as well as a video scheduled for Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week, and Monday, and then of course my final predictions on Tuesday, November 5th. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss all of those. If you like content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I have a goal of 500 subscribers by election night, so do me a favor and click on that bright red button below. Also make sure to join the Discord, links in the description and on my YouTube homepage is linked there as well. So here we can see the number of registered Democrats versus Republicans that have voted in each state. Now some of them, it's modeled by a company called Target Smart, so take that with quite a bit of grain of salt there. It's not specifically 100% accurate, but for the states where it says party registration is publicly available in the state, that is one that you can absolutely trust. Looking at these swing states, we have Nevada, which is 100% accurate, Arizona, accurate, Wisconsin, not, Michigan, not, Pennsylvania, not, and then looking down at North Carolina, it is, and Georgia, it is not. But, and of course, these swingy states being Minnesota, Virginia, Florida, New Hampshire, Maine, Alaska, New Mexico. So, and of course, technically Texas, but Texas looks like it's completely out of reach. That's already 5 million ballots already, with 52% to 37%. That's a 15-point lead, even with an adjustment. That looks like it's pretty much out of reach. So Texas is done for the Democrats. Same for Florida, 9-point lead, and that is set in stone with 4.3 million ballots set already. Looking at the results for 2020 coming in here just looking at the vote numbers. Give me a minute, it's taking a second here. Oh, it's irritating. There were a total of, looks like 10.8 million votes. And here we have 4.3 million, so that's about a third of the total vote already in here. And a 9-point lead for Republicans, and things are probably only going to get worse on election night. So, looking here, Florida's basically safe, but then moving on to the swing states, or the important ones, starting off with Pennsylvania. The key swing state of Pennsylvania. Looking here, we can see that 1.3 million mail-in and early in-person votes cast. Looking by vote type, all of them are mail-in. Pennsylvania has no early in-person voting. Democrats have a slightly higher return rate than Republicans so far from those mail-in ballots, but most of them have been turned in by this point. 60% to 30%, that's pretty good for the Democrats. And there's definitely a start. I don't have any numbers from 2020, unfortunately, on what they were at that point in time. Vote history is just sadly, that it shows just the direct results from each presidential election. It doesn't actually have any early vote data. But looking here, back up at here, again, this is set up by Target Smart here. It's not actually, publicly available, so, but no, Pennsylvania is the one that does actually have it publicly available. 40% for Republicans and Independents. 10% here for Independents. I think in Pennsylvania the Independent crosstab was like 52-48 for Kamala Harris, but basically 50-50, so that splits evenly. So you basically have 65 to 35%. And looking at 1.3 million cast, there were a total of just under 7 million votes in 2020 in the state of Pennsylvania. So there is a strong support so far for Kamala Harris, as long as the crosstabs end up coming out true. Of course, there's no guarantee, but that's about 95-5 for Democrats and 90-10 for Republicans. Looking here, back to the national early vote. Here we can, looking in at Michigan. Again, we're gonna have to take this with a grain of salt because this isn't guaranteed. This is based off of tons of information that's compilated together by this company called Target Smart, but that's not the actual votes here. 52%, 38%, 10. I believe that the anti-Trump Republican numbers are worse in Michigan than they were in Pennsylvania. 52% to 38% to 10% here, and the Democrats again have a better return rate if this is actually accurate at least. And of course, it was a lot bluer and less red over the past two election cycles than the other ones in the other two in the Rust Belt trio. So if Kamala Harris does end up coming up short in Michigan, that's a very bad sign for her in the rest of the night. And looking at the results for 2020, and I messed it up. There were 5.5 million votes cast in Michigan, and so there's definitely a strong showing out here as far as the 1.65 million votes already cast in the state of Michigan. Strong support for Kamala Harris, not as strong as Pennsylvania percentage-wise, especially as far ahead as it should be, but again, that's just modeled, so that's not exactly the same as publicly available information. Here in Georgia, there's a relatively strong lead for Republicans here, but again, by Target Smart, so take with a bit of salt here, especially with the mail-in ballots. Of course, you can see that mail-ins are now dwarfed by the in-person voting. Their records were absolutely annihilated in the first few days, and Republicans have been very energized in the state of Georgia, as you can also see by age. It's quite a bit of an older population, which of course tend to vote more Republican. 50-64 slightly Republican, 40-49 Democratic, 30-39 slightly Democratic, and 18-29 is about 50-50. And looking at gender, mostly women, even though men do tend to vote more Republican, which this fact that's 56%, and women have been showing out a strong bias towards Kamala Harris, may actually mean that there may be an upset coming in the state of Georgia. Just looking at these numbers here, 49-45, 6%, independents are slightly more Republican leaning in the state of Georgia. But there definitely may be a surprise incoming based on this outlook right here if women do end up showing out stronger for Kamala Harris than Donald Trump, even against their party registration, which again, of course, is only modeled here. And now the fact there's only a 4-point lead, I believe that is quite a bit down from where it was in the very beginning. That's a very good sign for the Democrats. However, the fact they're still behind is a great sign for the Republicans in the state. And there were just under 5 million votes cast in the state of Georgia in 2020, and there's already half of that in. There are more mail-in and early in-person votes cast as of today, right now, than Joe Biden or Donald Trump got in total in 2020. So there's a lot of people that are very energized to vote in the state of Georgia, and we already have a 50% margin in the state of Georgia. Moving on, next is going to be next is going to be North Carolina. If it is going to load here, all right. And in the state of North Carolina, 35% to 33% to 32%. I do believe that independents are slightly going for the Democrats, but again, this is modeled, so this is probably within their margin of error here, looking very, very evenly split. I do believe their early in-person voting opened a few days ago. Same sort of thing. They've been breaking records in North Carolina, including ones that were set in 2020. Both bases seem relatively enthused for this election, and last election there were 5.3 million votes cast in the state of North Carolina, and we have 2.7, almost 2.75 million ballots cast. So that is going to be right around half of the vote already in, most of that being requested mail-in ballots, but most of the votes taken here are going to be in-person early voting. So there's either a very low return rate of mail-in ballots or something else. I'm not exactly sure what. But moving on after North Carolina, things are looking relatively good for the Democrats right now. I'm pretty sure that that's a bit better than usual, especially if independents end up breaking for the Democrats at a slightly higher rate than expected. There's definitely room to move, but so far it looks like it's going to be a Republican hold just purely based on those numbers, which is publicly available. Wisconsin, 850,000. That's really not all that many at this point in time. As of yet, their early in-person voting opened some point last week. I believe it was probably Friday. They have right about 50-50 split. 1 million mail-in ballots requested. They had 3.2 million votes cast in 2020, and so they are on a very low 1/6 of their current expected vote is in on mail-in and early in-person votes, which is quite a bit less than North Carolina or Georgia, or even lower than Pennsylvania or Michigan. I believe it is the lowest one. There's probably going to be a lot of election day voting, which is a bad sign for the Democrats. There's definitely movement here for the Republicans that can be gained here. There's definitely a chance they could flip it. Also looking good here is the gender division. Of course, I haven't checked on the crosstabs here in a bit either, but this may be distorting things, as there's a chance that this is either just underrepresentation or by chance, or maybe the younger people in Wisconsin are unenthused, which would hurt the Harris campaign greatly, as of course that was one of the closest states in 2020, the third closest, Wisconsin being just 20,000 votes in the state of Wisconsin. So she doesn't really have much room to lose, and as of right now, it looks like Trump could definitely make up ground, and if he gets those 20,000 votes, that's a solid 10 electoral votes for him. Arizona is the next one. Publicly available information in the state of Arizona. Pulling up Arizona on Wikipedia over here, and publicly available 35 to 43 to 22. So strong showing out for Republicans, and basically all mail-in ballots. I think they just barely opened their in-person early voting because there's only 3% in here, and so they probably weren't counting any over the weekend. 43% for Republicans, 35 for Democrats. I believe that Arizona is one of the lesser ones for the Republicans for Harris movement, so that's not even going to be able to help them there. Looking at gender, a bit more women than men, so there's really not much potential for anything there either, and more an older audience, so there's definitely a good chance that, again, just like in Wisconsin, there's a chance that we may see a large young person show out on election night, which would be crucial for the Harris campaign, as Arizona was the second closest state in 2020. But as of right now, it does not look like things are looking all too good for the Harris campaign in the state of Arizona. Looking here, there were 3.3 million votes cast in the state of Arizona. So 1.2 million cast so far. That's right around 1/3. And lastly, the state of Nevada, party registration publicly available, 600,000 mail-in and early in-person ballots casted. Looking really good for Republicans here. 44% women, 46 men, 10% unknown. And quite a bit of it is actually mail-in vote. Age, quite a bit in older population. Again, if there's a lack of energized younger population in Nevada, that could definitely come back to bite the Harris campaign. And that would mean that she would need to work to energize this important part of her base right before election night. There were just under 1.4 million votes in Nevada in 2020. In 2020. So that's going to be right about, I believe that every single voter in Nevada automatically got a mail-in ballot. That looks to check out right there, but only based on this 57%, I'd say like 450,000. Only about 450,000 have been returned, so not a very energized mail-in ballot returning. And age just a bit older, so it's not even looking like there's any potential lack of youth energizing. It's just more that there's just a better show out for the Republicans in the state of Nevada. Now, of course, there's going to be questions as far as how the independent vote will split. This could absolutely give Harris the election if she ended up getting about 60% of the vote here from the independents. But we will have to wait and see until election night for that, because of course these are ballots, not votes. We cannot see who they voted for. So, but things are generally looking good for Donald Trump right now. And as far as the early vote goes, there's definitely more room for Harris to expand as things keep moving over the next week. As of right now, Donald Trump's in a very good position because he looks like he's probably going to win every single swing state other than potentially Pennsylvania and Michigan, which are looking relatively close. So again, thank you all so much for watching. Have a fabulous rest of your day. Make sure to subscribe so you do not miss the live stream on November 5th, the election night results live. Have a fabulous rest of your day.